So we have started with passive systems, and we had seen what positive real systems are, and then we also understood what the positive real lemma is. And from the positive real lemma, what we observed is the system, the LTI system that we had. We can only talk of stability of the system, but we couldn't talk of anything known as asymptotic stability for the system. Okay, so today we'll be talking of a concept where it will enable us to establish asymptotic stability for LTI systems. I mean, in addition to they being positive real. Okay, so suppose you have a single input, single output LTI system represented by the transfer function GS, and let this GS be a positive real transfer function. So the system is positive real. Now, when we say it is positive real, then essentially means the entire right half plane. So the j omega axis and the right of the j omega axis. Okay, entire right half of the S plane maps onto the first and fourth quadrant in the GS plane. Okay, so the j omega axis will map onto the Nyquist plot of GS, and the remaining right half part, which is the open right half of S plane, will map to the interior of the Nyquist plot, and this Nyquist plot lies in the first and fourth quadrant. This is when GS is a positive real transfer function. Okay, so this is depicted in this sketch. The first sketch that you get, the red shaded region maps into the red shaded region. The S plane maps into the red shaded region in the GS plane. Okay, and the j omega axis of the S plane maps onto the Nyquist plot, which is shown in blue. Okay, so hypothetically, this is for some transfer function, positive real transfer function GS. Okay, now we pose one question, and it is that instead of considering everything to the right of the j omega axis in the S plane, what if we consider an axis that lies slightly to the left of the j omega axis? Okay, an axis that lies to the left of j omega axis, which is denoted in this sketch on the left by the green dashed line. Okay, so suppose we consider a axis passing through minus epsilon in the S plane, and now what we are interested in is, we know that GS is a positive real transfer function. So we just now want to check is, if I have such a epsilon, then everything to the right of the minus epsilon axis, including the minus epsilon axis, will that map under the action of G or the transfer function to the first and fourth quadrant in the GS plane. Okay, so the question is, will there exist a positive constant epsilon such that the points to the right of the minus epsilon axis, which is shown here in the green dashed line in the S plane, will map to the first and fourth quadrant in the GS plane? Okay, that is what we want to ask. So what it is trying to say is, if instead of starting from the j omega axis, if you start slightly to the left of the omega axis, in such a case, will there be will the map of such points be that they lie in the first and fourth quadrant of the GS plane? That is what the question is. Now the answer is yes. Yes, we can find such a epsilon, so that all points to the right of minus epsilon will always map to the first and fourth quadrant of the GS plane. Then we call this GS to be a strictly positive real transfer function. Okay, the answer is yes to what question we asked. Then GS is said to be strictly positive real. Okay, so what essentially this means is, it is allowing you a certain margin by which, if you start from a margin through which, that margin is actually epsilon. It is allowing you that epsilon margin, where if you start mapping the points to the right of this minus epsilon axis in GS plane, they will all map onto the first and fourth quadrant. Okay, so this essentially means, if you map the entire right half of the S plane, okay, entire right half of the S plane starting from the j omega axis, then the map that you have in the GS plane will strictly lie in the first and the fourth quadrant, and none of the imaginary components of the GS plane will actually be a part of this particular mapping. Okay, so GS is strictly positive real. If we want to put it again formally, then it means that we can call a transfer function GS to be strictly positive real if g of s minus epsilon, that epsilon represents the left shift that we have. So g of s minus epsilon is positive real for some epsilon greater than 0. Okay, should be able to find a positive epsilon such that g of s minus epsilon is a positive real transfer function. If that is true, then gs is said to be a strictly positive real transfer function. Okay, now if you cannot find a epsilon that actually does this, then any point is so in such a case, if you map everything to the right of the minus epsilon axis, then you would see that in the GS plane, some part of this mapping would not be contained in the first and the fourth quadrant. Okay, for example, in this sketch, the blue shaded part is the right half of S plane. I label this as S plane, and the red shaded part is part that is starting slightly to the left of the S plane. So if GS is positive real but not strictly positive real, then the points which are basically marked by the red shaded region will map onto the GS plane such that some of the mappings you see here, some of the mappings that you see, they are not contained in the GS in the first and fourth quadrant of the GS plane. So in such a case, GS will not be called a strictly positive real transfer function. Okay. Now with this idea of strictly positive real transfer function, we again state a version of the positive real lemma, which is also known as the Kalman-Yakubovich Popov lemma. So this is a lemma which has a small variation with respect to the positive real lemma that we had seen, and this small variation that you see actually helps in establishing that LTI autonomous system will always be asymptotically stable. So the origin of the LTI autonomous system will be asymptotically stable. So the lemma goes as this. So let's say that you have a LTI system GS and its minimal state space representation is done by using the matrices ABCD. So when I say minimal state space representation, that means A and B is a controllable pair and A and C is an observable pair. Now, GS is strictly positive real if and only if you can find a positive definite matrix P, a positive constant epsilon, and two matrices L and W of appropriate dimension such that these matrix equalities are satisfied. Now, if you see, if you compare this with the positive real lemma, then the additional term that comes in the matrix equality is only the minus epsilon P part. Okay, which was absent in case of a positive real lemma. So the positive real lemma said that GS is strictly GS is positive real if there exists a positive definite P and some matrix L and W of appropriate dimension, so that the matrix inequalities that are given here are satisfied. The matrix inequalities that are written in black are satisfied. But in case of strictly positive real, it adds a positive constant epsilon to the matrix inequality, which is interacting, which is basically trying to scale the positive definite matrix P. So to this black matrix equalities that we have written, there is this additional component that comes in the first matrix equality, which is A transpose P plus PA should be equal to minus L transpose L minus epsilon P. Okay, so let us see that how this small addition of minus epsilon P for a strictly positive real system essentially helps us in establishing that the strictly positive real system origin under no input will always be asymptotically stable. So let's say that the input is identically 0 and the energy function that we choose is half x transpose px. So if we take a time derivative of the energy function and substitute the state space equations that we had, what we have is minus half x transpose L transpose Lx and minus half x transpose epsilon px. Now, this quantity that you see here is definitely going to be less than equal to minus half x transpose epsilon p x, because the quantity in the equality to the left is be making things further negative. Okay, so this inequality holds. Now we already know that E is nothing but half x transpose px. So what we have is d by dt or E dot to be less than equal to minus epsilon E. Okay, and this minus epsilon E is negative definite because E is positive definite. So hence what we have is E dot is negative definite, and hence the autonomous system's origin is going to be asymptotically stable. But further going ahead, we have E dot to be less than equal to minus epsilon E, and this inequality says that the origin of the autonomous system is exponentially stable. Okay, so for strictly positive real systems, the origin of the autonomous system is exponentially stable. This is what we get. It is not only asymptotically stable but also exponentially stable. Okay, so with this idea of positive real and strictly positive real systems and the corresponding lemmas which try to establish about the stability of the origin for autonomous system, uh, what we'll move on is to where this all started, where all this discussion started in our lecture. It all started from the Eisenmann's conjecture. We stated we saw what the Eisenmann's conjecture is, and then we made a statement that Eisenman conjecture actually doesn't hold in general, right? So now, with the idea of these results and the idea of passivity, we'll move ahead in the forthcoming lecture and see under what conditions the Eisenman's conjecture will actually hold. So we'll stop here. Thank you.